I can't believe they locked me up for driving on a sidewalk.
Come on, Eddie. Get in.
It was just a couple of miles.
I'll drive. But I'm going to drive.
The first time you saw a cartoon character pick up a real object, your brain probably short-circuited. Who Framed Roger Rabbit crashed into theaters on June 22nd, 1988, and made the impossible look effortless, proving that toons and humans could share the same screen without looking like cheap garbage pasted together in someone's garage. Robert Zemeckis directed a film noir where cartoon characters weren't just entertainment. They were second-class citizens living in segregated Toontown, working menial jobs and getting framed for crimes they didn't commit. Bob Hoskins played Eddie Valiant, a bitter detective who hated toons until one particular rabbit dragged him into conspiracy and redemption. Christopher Lloyd was Judge Doom, proving that the scariest villains hide behind painted smiles. And Charles Fleer voiced Roger with such manic energy that kids loved the slapstick while adults appreciated the noir underneath. The film cost $70 million, an astronomical figure for 1988, and became a technical achievement that animation historians still study today. It grossed $329 million worldwide, won 4 Academy Awards, and created characters so iconic that Disney built an entire section of their theme parks around them. But behind every perfectly synchronized interaction between cartoon and reality was pain, technological nightmares, animation sweatshops, and deals with competing studios that should have been impossible. Let's investigate 15 wild facts about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, starting with number 15. Number 15. Disney had to pay Warner Brothers per second of screen time for Bugs Bunny. The film required characters from multiple competing animation studios to appear together. Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, Betty Boop, Droopy Dog, all owned by different companies who'd spent decades actively hating each other. Getting Disney, Warner Brothers, Universal, and Fleer Studios to cooperate should have been impossible. Zemeckis and producer Steven Spielberg spent months negotiating deals with every studio that owned classic cartoon characters. Each studio wanted creative approval, equal screen time for their characters, and guarantees that their properties wouldn't be depicted negatively. The contract specified that if Mickey appeared for 5 seconds and 14 frames, Bugs had to appear for exactly 5 seconds and 14 frames, not approximate, exact. So Zemeckis created the parachute scene where Mickey and Bugs fall together, sharing the screen for identical durations. Editors literally counted frames to ensure contractual compliance. The corporate warfare that nearly prevented the film from existing created one of cinema's most magical moments. Seeing rival studio characters interact on screen was unprecedented, and it only happened because lawyers counted every single frame. Number 14. Bob Hoskins performed opposite nothing and punched himself in the face repeatedly. Hoskins spent over a year filming acting opposite empty air. Every scene with Roger, Jessica, or any toon required him to perform alone, reacting to nothing, pretending to be yanked around by invisible forces, and maintaining eye contact with marks on sticks. Puppeteers operated props that Roger would supposedly be holding. Stand-ins crouched off camera, marking where toons would appear later. But Hoskins had to imagine everything and sell the reality of interacting with characters that wouldn't exist until months after filming wrapped. The scene where Roger supposedly slams Eddie's head against the steering wheel, Hoskins did that to himself repeatedly, take after take. He'd arrive home covered in bruises from scenes where he essentially beat himself up to create the illusion of cartoon violence. His wife reportedly asked if he was okay because he looked like he'd been in actual fights. The shoot lasted so long that Hoskins admitted seeing cartoon rabbits in his peripheral vision during production. Whether that was psychological strain or just his brain filling in gaps after months of pretending, he never quite clarified. Number 13. Richard Williams ran an animation sweatshop and animators literally collapsed. Who Framed Roger Rabbit required over 1,000 effects shots combining live action with hand-drawn animation. Williams assembled a team of over 300 animators working in Camden Town, London. The standard schedule was 6 days a week, 14-hour days minimum, hand-drawing every frame with no computers, no shortcuts, just pencil and paper and exhausted artists racing against impossible deadlines. Sleep deprivation was normalized. Taking breaks was discouraged. Williams ran the studio with an intensity that bordered on abusive, demanding perfection while refusing to extend deadlines. Multiple animators confirmed that people literally fainted from exhaustion during the final months. Each second of finished animation required roughly 24 individual drawings, and a 10-second scene could require over 500 drawings, each needing to be precisely aligned, checked, colored, and photographed. They finished just days before the absolute final deadline. The animation that looks so effortless on screen represents 2 years of documented human suffering in a London studio. The magic required misery, and dozens of animators still talk about those 2 years as the hardest work of their careers. Number 12. Jessica Rabbit's wardrobe malfunction was real, and Disney recalled thousands of VHS tapes. In the sequence where Jessica is thrown from Benny the cab and tumbles across the street, her dress flies up for several frames, and if you pause the VHS at exactly the right moment, it appeared she wasn't wearing anything underneath. This wasn't discovered until after the film had been in theaters for months, and the VHS release had sold hundreds of thousands of copies. A vigilant parent noticed it, complained to Disney, and suddenly the company faced a potential scandal involving animated nudity in a family film. Disney issued a voluntary recall, offering to replace copies with a corrected version where the offending frames had been digitally painted over. The recall cost millions, but the controversy generated massive publicity, and sales actually increased after the recall because collectors wanted the uncorrected version. The wardrobe malfunction that cost Disney millions became one of the most profitable animation errors in history. Number 11. Charles Fletcher wore a Roger Rabbit costume on set and refused to break character. Fleer didn't just voice Roger in a recording booth. He performed on set in full costume next to Bob Hoskins during filming. When Hoskins acted against pre-recorded dialogue, the timing felt wrong, so Fleer proposed performing live on set instead. He showed up wearing a full Roger Rabbit costume he'd commissioned himself, complete with ears, tail, and red overalls, and performed Roger's lines with full physical commitment during every take. Crew members confirmed that Fleer stayed in character between takes, maintaining Roger's manic energy for entire shooting days. Hoskins' reactions to Fleer's live performance were significantly more authentic than anything captured with pre-recorded dialogue. One of cinema's most technically sophisticated achievements required a voice actor in a homemade rabbit costume jumping around like a lunatic on a professional film set. The high-tech solution was aggressively low-tech. Number 10. Judge Doom's death scene caused panic in theaters, and parents demanded refunds. When Doom gets flattened by a steamroller, then reinflates himself with squeaking balloon sounds while revealing glowing red cartoon eyes and a high-pitched voice, children in theaters across America started screaming and crying. The combination of Lloyd's bulging cartoon eyes, the grotesque voice, and the body horror of watching him inflate created genuine nightmare fuel kids were completely unprepared for. Parents walked out mid-film with hysterical children, and multiple theaters received demands for ticket refunds. The MPAA received formal challenges to the PG rating, with parents groups arguing the film should have been rated PG-13. News coverage of the terrifying scene actually drove more families to theaters because parents wanted to judge for themselves, and box office numbers increased rather than decreased. The scene that traumatized children became one of the film's most memorable moments and actually sold more tickets. Number 9. Bob Hoskins destroyed his back doing wire work and required surgery. Every scene where Roger supposedly grabbed Eddie or yanked him in different directions required Hoskins to create those movements himself while attached to wires and harnesses. Take after take, day after day, he jerked his own body around on wire rigs, creating cumulative damage to his lower back and spine. He relied on painkillers and physical therapy between shoots to keep functioning, and after filming Wrapped, required back surgery to address damage to his lumbar vertebrae. The back problems affected his ability to take certain physical roles for years afterward. The role that audiences loved literally broke the actor's body in ways that required medical intervention. Number 8. Steven Spielberg spent 7 years getting rejected before Disney finally agreed. Spielberg discovered Gary K. Wolfe's novel in 1981, immediately saw its film potential, bought the rights, and started the long, painful process of convincing studios it could work. The pitch seemed impossible. Mix film noir with Looney Tunes slapstick, combine human actors with hand-drawn animation in every shot, and create a story where cartoon characters are real but oppressed. Every studio said no. Disney passed in 1983. Warner Brothers passed. Universal, Paramount, everyone rejected it as too expensive and too technically risky. Spielberg kept pushing, brought in Zemeckis as director, and went back to Disney in 1985 with more detailed technical plans. The negotiation took 2 more years, nearly collapsing multiple times over budget concerns and creative control. Finally, in 1987, they reached an agreement, and the film that every studio rejected for 7 years became a massive hit that changed animation history. Number 7, ILM had to invent new camera technology that didn't exist. The film required cameras that could move freely through scenes while maintaining perfect mathematical precision for animation alignment. ILM developed a motion control system called the Vistaglide camera rig that could record every camera movement precisely, then reproduce those exact movements later when filming animation elements. This technology had to be engineered from scratch at a cost of millions over more than a year of development. The Vistaglide was functional but temperamental, requiring constant calibration and frequent maintenance. Roger Rabbit forced the invention of motion control systems that became the foundation for Jurassic Park, Terminator 2, and the entire modern VFX industry. Number 6. Kathleen Turner voiced Jessica Rabbit uncredited for scale pay. Turner was a major star in 1987 with a standard fee of over $1 million per film, but Disney offered SAG scale, approximately $10,000 for a few days of recording, with the condition of no screen credit. When Roger Rabbit became a massive hit and Jessica became a cultural phenomenon, Turner's instantly recognizable voice was everywhere, but her contract prevented her from confirming her involvement publicly. She eventually confirmed it years later and told reporters the arrangement had been a mistake. The actress, who created one of cinema's most memorable characters, was legally prevented from claiming her own work for years. Number 5. Every single shadow and light reflection was hand-painted frame by frame. Animators had to hand-paint highlights, shadows, and lighting effects onto every single frame based on the lighting conditions in the live-action plate. One 5-second shot could contain 120 frames, each needing individual lighting analysis and hand-painted adjustments. Multiply that across over 1,000 effect shots, and you're looking at hundreds of thousands of frames requiring manual work. Williams estimated the lighting and shadow work added approximately 8 months to the production schedule and required hiring 40 additional artists, specifically for lighting duty. The seamless integration everyone praises was achieved through boring, repetitive labor that nobody notices when done correctly. Number 4. Disney and Spielberg killed the sequel. Who Framed Roger Rabbit 2 was in active development from 1989 to 2001 before being killed permanently over control disputes. At least 5 different scripts were written and rejected. The final breakdown came around 2001 when Spielberg demanded final cut approval and profit participation that Disney considered excessive. Spielberg walked away, and Zemeckis refused to direct without him. The collaboration that created a masterpiece couldn't survive its own success. The sequel fans wanted for decades died because the people who made the original couldn't agree on how to split the profits. Number 3. The production nearly collapsed when 3 key animators quit simultaneously. In late 1987, roughly halfway through the animation schedule, 3 of Williams' top senior animators submitted resignations together over the brutal working conditions. Replacing them mid-production would have required weeks of retraining, and missing the summer 1988 release date would have cost Disney millions. Williams personally negotiated with all 3, offering reduced schedules and higher pay. 2 agreed to stay. The 3rd left anyway. The resolution forced Williams to improve conditions for the entire team, and the 6-day weeks became 5-day weeks. The near collapse caused by animator rebellion actually made the rest of production more humane. Number 2. The Baby Herman cigar gag almost earned the film an R rating. The MPAA viewed the cigar as promoting tobacco use to children, which violated their guidelines even in the context of satire. The ratings board initially indicated the film would receive a PG, 13 or R rating unless the cigar was removed entirely. After weeks of negotiation, the compromise allowed Baby Herman to keep the cigar provided the character appeared unsympathetic and the smoking wasn't glamorized. Judge Doom's body horror got approved easily, but a satirical cigar in a cartoon baby's mouth nearly earned an R rating. The MPAA was more concerned about tobacco satire than melting faces. Number 1. Roger Rabbit won animation Oscars but lost Best Picture because of cartoon prejudice. The film won 4 Academy Awards in 1989, Best Film Editing, Best Sound Effects Editing, Best Visual Effects, and a Special Achievement Award for Animation Direction. But it wasn't even nominated for Best Picture, despite Roger Ebert giving it 4 stars and the film grossing $329 million worldwide against a $70 million budget. Academy members privately dismissed Roger Rabbit as a cartoon despite it being predominantly live action. The snub was particularly glaring because 1988 was not a strong year for Best Picture contenders, and Roger Rabbit's reception exceeded most of the actual nominees. A film that won 4 Oscars for technical achievements couldn't get nominated for Best Picture because Academy voters couldn't see past their prejudice against animation. The movie that proved cartoons and live action could create serious cinema was dismissed as just a cartoon. And there you have it. 15 wild facts about the movie that proved animation and live action could coexist while nearly destroying everyone involved in making it happen. From Spielberg's 7-year rejection tour to Hoskins punching himself in the face, to animators collapsing from exhaustion, to Disney recalling thousands of VHS tapes over Jessica's wardrobe malfunction. Who Framed Roger Rabbit was a miracle held together by stubborn determination and expensive technology. Which fact shocked you most? Drop your answers in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of animation's greatest technical achievements, smash that like button and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories about the movies that defined our childhoods. We're covering everything from blockbusters to cult classics, and the weird facts never stop. Until next time.